All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are cracking open the brilliant insights from Jennifer L. Kleinenhen's book, How to Solve Impossible Problems. We're basically going to build a toolkit for thinking like a genius.
You know the feeling, right? That challenge at work, that personal goal that just seems completely out of reach. You hit a wall, and it feels like no matter how hard you push, nothing moves.
And here's the big secret. The answer isn't just about raw brain power or thinking harder. It's about thinking better. See, problem solving is a skill. It's something you can actually learn by understanding the flaws in your own thinking and then using the kind of frameworks that brilliant minds have been using for centuries.
So, what is it that makes a problem feel so, well, impossible? Let's really get to the heart of the issue. This might be a tough pill to swallow, but yeah, it's you. Often, the biggest barriers are our own assumptions, our mental shortcuts, and the stories we tell ourselves. Our own brains are getting in the way. So, to become better problem solvers, the first thing we have to do is understand the built-in bugs in our own mental software. And these bugs have a name: cognitive biases. You can think of them as your brain's default filtering system. It has to process a ton of information every second, so it creates these little shortcuts. They're super efficient, for sure, but they're also often flawed, and they lead us to make the same kinds of mistakes over and over. And that's the key right there. As the behavioral scientist Dan Ariely says, these aren't random mistakes. They are systematic. They are predictable. And if we can understand that system, we can start to push back against it. Now, this isn't just some abstract theory. A simple thinking error can have literal life-or-death consequences. This next story is one of the most powerful examples I know of why overcoming these biases is so incredibly critical. Okay, picture this. It's World War II. The military is looking at the planes that come back from missions, and they're covered in bullet holes. The logical plan, the obvious plan, is to add armor to the places that got hit the most, right? But a statistician named Abraham Wald saw a fatal flaw in their logic. He realized they were only looking at the survivors. The most important data wasn't on the planes that made it back. It was on the ones that didn't. And this is just brilliant. The areas with no damage on the planes that came home, the engines, the cockpit, those were the truly vulnerable spots. If a plane got hit there, it wasn't coming back. Wald's insight completely flips the problem on its head and saved countless lives, all because he overcame one simple thinking trap.
And survivorship bias is just the tip of the iceberg. You've got confirmation bias, where we only pay attention to information that proves we're right. That's why you have to actively look for opinions that challenging. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy, continuing a failing project just because you've already put so much time or money into it. A great way to fight that is to ask, if I were a total outsider, would I still invest in this today? These little mental checks can be total game changers.
Okay, so we get the problem. Our brains are hardwired with these thinking traps. So what's the solution? Well, the good news is you don't need a new brain. You just need better tools for the one you've already got.
And this is such an empowering idea, isn't it? Geniuses aren't some different species. They use systematic frameworks, you can call them mental models, to break down problems and see them in completely new ways. So let's talk about one of the most powerful tools out there: first principles thinking. Most of the time, we reason by analogy. We say, we'll do it this way because that's how it's always been done. But with first principles, you throw all that out. You boil a problem down to the things you know are absolutely fundamentally true, like the laws of physics, and then you build a new solution from that solid foundation. So how do you actually do it? Well, it's a three-step process. First, you deconstruct the problem into all its little pieces. Second, you challenge every single assumption you have. You have to ask, is this really true, or is it just something we've always accepted? And finally, once you're left with only the fundamental truths, you build your solution back up from there. And the results of thinking this way, they're literally world-changing. Elon Musk didn't just accept that rockets are expensive. He asked, what are they made of? He found out the raw materials were only about 2% of the cost, so he figured, why not build his own? Henry Ford questioned the idea that cars had to be built one at a time. Gutenberg combined a wine press and a coin punch. See the pattern? They didn't just improve on old ideas, they built brand new ones from the ground up.
And here's another simple but brilliant tool: inversion. Instead of just asking, how do we succeed, you flip it on its head and ask, what could we do that would absolutely guarantee we fail? By figuring out all the paths to failure and then just avoiding them, you're often left with a much clearer and more reliable path to success.
So what does all this mean for you and me? How do we put this into practice and start tackling our own impossible problems? All right, here's the roadmap. Number 1, just be aware that these biases exist. Seriously, that's half the battle. 2, actively question your own assumptions about a problem. 3, start playing around with mental tools like first principles and inversion to break out of your old patterns. And maybe most importantly, number 4, remember that this isn't magic. Better thinking is a muscle. You can train it and develop it over time.
So, with these new tools in your kit, the real question isn't whether you can solve those impossible problems. It's which one are you going to tackle first?